Welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We're your hosts, Eric Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
You know, Mikey, I feel like we need a little bit more than what up today.
Yeah, what do you want?
Mikey Taylor, the co-founder of Commune Capital, professional skateboarder of 10 years. We're going to come up with some new intros. Let us know what you want. Male model? No, he's not a model.
Damn, dog.
Well, he's rocking the dad bod these days.
Oh,
this is getting good so far. We're already. We're not. We're going.
I know we had you here to interview you, but we're done. It's going to be just Eric and I fighting each other.
We're the co-founders of AVNI, a brand for entrepreneurs and influencers. And today's guest is Matt Coulter. Basically, if you want to start a nonprofit, if you have money and you want to do good with it and you want to know how to do it, Matt Coulter's your guy. He spent 10 years running a global cancer nonprofit. He sat on 7 hospital charity boards. He recently created a platform to help his friends create nonprofits. And the first venture is called BeYoutiful, the BeYoutiful Foundation. And he also has an online thrift store with a charity element to it, a give back component called 143. What is it, Matt?
Shop 143.
Shop 143. Matt Coulter. Matt, thanks for being on.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
I'm still not ready to let this not be about me.
I mean, I was going to come to Mikey's defense. I mean, with DC, I feel like you did your fair share of, I'm sure there's like foot models and things that you were doing for
him
DC.
Being a model? Oh,
yeah.
No, he's a model for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
here we go.
That should be on your Instagram, like all your list of things.
I did kind of just kick him while he's down.
If you guys want to bless the audience with a good interview, hype me up right now.
Dude,
Put me in the mood, boys. I'm rocking the dad bod, it's true.
And we both just started businesses. And whenever you start a business, I feel like you always kind of get out of shape, like for a couple months, and then you get back in.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Jen put you on blast too recently.
The Instagram post. That's what I'm talking about. That's why I said that.
It was rough in the streets.
I'm rocking.
Dude.
My head's been down though, dog. It's been months of head down,
dude.
Plow through.
You want to be a model? You want money? Like let's get it.
Hey, I like the tone of this one. Yeah, man. I like where this is headed,
dude. I was literally in our first video. I was like heavy, like really heavy, and I've been hitting the gym for like almost 3 months now. So I didn't mean to kick you while you're down, dude.
It's all good.
And you're nowhere near where I was.
It's all good, dude. I got a dad bod with no kids. Like that's tough.
Yeah,
you got it's like a business bod or something.
It's a business bod. I'm gonna actually. I like that.
My buddy Sandro already talks about this, dude. We just need to get rich and ripped.
Rich and ripped,
dude. That's rich and ripped.
I feel like that's a podcast in itself.
I love that. So let's start this off. You want to start this one?
So let's start with your background before we dive into what you're doing right now. So you were working in corporate America making a lot of money. Is that where we should start?
Yeah, we can start there.
We should start with he was the richest person we knew at like age 22.
Yeah, start with that, Mike. You tell that.
Right?
Yeah, no, I think that was kind of like the MO for me. It was like I was the kid, like I had
he was the
friends.
Early achiever almost, right?
Yeah, because all my friends were athletes. So people like you and, all these different surfers and skaters and snowboarders, all my friends, they were all on that path, immensely talented, went that route. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school because I don't surf as good as you. I certainly don't skate as good as you. I don't have all these things. So, and my parents were like, no, you're going to college. And so, went to college and then kind of sacrificed a lot of good waves and a lot of things, and where I kind of paid the price where my friends are texting me and calling me going, oh, the waves are so good. And I'm like in like math class or something like that, or business class. And so, but it kind of paid dividends for me when I came out of school. I kind of got not into the family business because it's not a family business, but my dad's kind of been in the commercial industrial real estate space for 40 years. And so I kind of graduated from school, and then I think I spent like 6 months at home trying to go, okay, like what am I going to really do? And then one of my dad's business partners took me out to lunch and was like, you're wasting your time. Let's get to work. And I was like, okay, cool. And was kind of started at the bottom and kind of worked my way up pretty quick. And then all of a sudden I was 22 or 23. And all of a sudden I had like the nicest car and I had the watches.
What you were making like over 300 grand?
I was making a lot of money. Yeah.
Like, right? Like
yeah.
We're talking
like
as a 22-year-old?
Like substantial six figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you knew Mikey back then, right?
Yeah, like we knew each other.
I knew who he was.
We weren't like homies.
I knew him as like the rich kid from Ventura. I'm just joking. Seriously, no. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I would see him like at the beach and surfing, and then like he'd pull out of the beach and drive off. And like, what car were you driving back then?
I had the 335 twin turbo. Like that car was bad. Like I remember I got that. That was like the first thing where I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so he was doing good. I mean, like we were just like, yeah, Matt's like rich.
And you were making this money yourself?
Yeah. I was making
at 22,
23. Yeah, I was making a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah, and I kind of like came out of the chute firing. Like I spent 6 months kind of working my way up, and then all of a sudden, like, I started, seeing the kind of the
that business is pretty, or can be pretty lucrative.
At that time, it was
what
like,
business are you talking about?
So at that time, it was like residential real estate. It was title insurance. It was mortgage business. I was kind of doing a combination of all of that.
You were selling it?
Yeah. I mean, I was a salesperson, and I could talk. And at that time, money was cheap.
Yeah.
And everybody was buying. Everybody was, doing well. I just happened to really time it really well, and kind of I grew up in that business, so I knew a lot of people out of the gate, and so for me it was like I kind of got my feet wet, and I was like, oh, this is actually I got to work hard, but it's pretty easy. And then I saw that first commission check, and I was like, oh, that's it's on.
And real quick though, you're very connected in surfing, would I say? Like you grew up around a lot of pro surfers?
Yeah, I kind of grew up, surfing in Ventura, and, had little tiny, like little flow deals and stuff like that. But all my friends were some of the best guys in the world, ended up being some of the best guys. And Ventura is so rich in surfing.
Yeah.
And, it's definitely my passion. I still try to surf as much as I can. And, but at that time it was like, those were all my friends. I wasn't hanging out with my coworkers. Right. I was literally going, okay, like I'm going to go try to work. And then how quick can I get to the beach to go surf or whatnot? And so that was my peer group. But a lot of my peer groups were either still in college, if they went that route, or they were all kind of just emerging as professional athletes and really maybe hadn't gotten paid yet, or were kind of on their way. And so I was just a little bit in front. And it was a good experience, but it was definitely a weird experience where like your opinion of me was kind of the opinion that all my peers had. And yeah, I was making money, but looking at it now, like...
Well, yeah, but like, yeah, you're young and you see like a 3 Series. I mean, the 3 Series, I didn't even know the difference between like a turbo or no. I was like, dude, these are driving a Benz.
Yeah, God. And I think at one point I had 3 cars, maybe 4, like for no reason, like stupid decisions.
So Mikey, how old were you at that time?
You're 36? 37?
I just turned 37.
So if you were 21, I was 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was
I was still in the
You're
Acura.
an AM skater. You were
I had the
basically
Acura.
amateur.
Were
my
you with
Acura
DC
Integra.
at that point?
No. I was like just got on S.
Okay.
I was making $2,500 a month. I thought
Matt's
I was
making-
chilling, man. I thought I was
Yeah.
booming,
No, I mean, you say that. Like, I remember the first time, because we would get paid, like, at that early on, getting paid, like, every 2 weeks, corporate America, the whole thing. I remember the first check that I got that was substantial. It was $5,500 for a 2-week period. I was like, I'm rich.
Yeah, dude, it's great. Yeah, dude,
And
totally.
going. I remember like going to my friend's restaurant. Did you ever go to Table 13?
No.
Okay, shout out to my boy
No,
Sandro.
we were on some full skate shit, man.
Yeah, I went to this place. It was in Ventura. It wasn't anything bougie, but I remember walking around there and I was like, oh, I got $500 cash in my pocket. Like I'm buying shots for people and drinks, thinking I'm rich.
Yeah.
Like, and not realizing that. Yeah, it was on that for a while.
So, okay. So you're doing well.
Yeah.
So how do you go from selling properties and real estate insurance to starting a nonprofit
So
and essentially becoming the richest guy I knew to the
like the poorest, like, hey, you want to buy me some lunch, type of thing. It's kind of an interesting space. I lived in that kind of real estate world for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and then had a friend of a friend get diagnosed with cancer, and kind of went through that experience. And I think for me, like my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. She was 89. So at that point it was quality of life, making sure that she was okay. And that was my only real experience. My aunt had a couple little bouts with breast cancer, but anything like directly. But going through that experience, I was dumbfounded by like, you're kind of like on your own.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy. Like at that point, I think it was like 2008, I think, when she was diagnosed. And, 2008, I feel like that wasn't that long ago, but it was, we were, she was on her own, and it was really just kind of like fend for yourself. And for me, I had this interesting space of like, I always wanted to give back, because the back of my head, I knew how many advantages that I was just given by being born into the family that I was born into, living where I got to live, getting to have all these experiences that so many people don't get to have. So I knew that, like, I was aware enough as a human being to know that, hey, I've got like a lot of advantages that a lot of people that would pay would give anything for. And so in the back of my mind, I think shout out to my parents, doing a pretty good job keeping me humble and like, hey, be thankful for what you have. And I'd always wanted to give back. And so going through that cancer experience, we created a nonprofit, and I really very arrogantly looked at it and went, oh, it's just paperwork and contracts. Like, that's what I do all day, every day anyways. So like, I'll figure it out. Created the nonprofit, all the paperwork. I had a business partner. But
at this time, are you still working in real estate?
Yeah, I'm still working real estate, and obviously feeling the ebbs and the flows of the real estate market at that time, because 2008, 2009, things were...
Yeah, that was a tough time.
Yeah, it was a difficult time for a lot of people. And so I think for me, I had attained a lot early at, 23, 24, 25. I had a lot of things that I think I would have deemed myself successful if I would have had at 40. And to get that in your mid-20s, obviously I realize it now. I didn't, conceptualize all this in the moment, but looking at it, I got all this stuff and I wasn't happy. Like, I like nice stuff, just like everybody else. Like, but
and you had the nice stuff.
I did. And that's where I was tripping. Like, I literally had bought like my dream home. It was like on the hill in Ventura.
How old were you when you did that?
24.
Wow.
25 maybe. I mean, the house was like, my parents shoot me if they hear this. It was like nicer than their house, and I had a bunch of cars. I had all this stuff. And I remember, this is the one thing I do remember, like it was 5 minutes ago, was sitting in my backyard, my dream house, in my spa, by myself, sitting there, because I'd been in my house at that point, probably like a year, maybe just under. And I was like, I got it. And it doesn't mean anything.
Like, what next?
Yeah, and I think too, like, because I've experienced that as well, and it's like, I think people a lot of times like are waiting for something to happen to become happy. Like,
like some
if I
grandiose,
just get this,
like I made it, like
like if I just get this job, if I just make this money, I'll be happy. And then once you kind of get it, it doesn't kill that void,
or it does for a small amount of time. It's like the first time you get a sit car, right?
Yeah, like dude, yeah. Like, dude, like, let's be real, like, especially, like, right after St. Archer, like, we got all that. Like, there was a moment where it was short, 2 weeks, but it was like, dude, this is the sickest shit. And then all of a sudden, it's back to real life.
Yeah, and it's like...
You still have the same
the
problems.
one thing that I will say, if there was one thing that I could wish for everybody, I wish everybody could have that moment. Because I think there's a lot of people that never get the carrot. Yeah. They just chase it forever, and then they wake up and they're 62 and going, like... What did I just do with my life?
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so kind of going through that experience, I feel like the luckiest human ever to have experienced that in my 20s, right? And so our friend gets sick. We start down this path of the nonprofit. I kind of start to figure out that, well, maybe I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but ended up doing it all myself. I filed for the nonprofit status all myself. I dealt with the IRS all by myself. I dealt with the state of California, everything that comes along with starting a nonprofit. I did it, and I did it at night, and I did it on the weekends and when I could find spare time. And we were able to build an organization that was built to really kind of help kids and families that were dealing with cancer. And we built an amazing, amazing global nonprofit. We had people all over the world supporting us. We really kind of hit a home run in regards to timing, because we were able to kind of take advantage of social influence when it was just kind of really getting started. And so
let's get into that in a second. Real quick though, I want to make sure we don't skip over this. You took when you dove in full to the nonprofit, you went from making a lot of money to making how much money?
So we won't talk about how I was making a lot of money. I was making a substantial amount of money. And I think the first year that I worked I quit that job, sold my portfolios, like got rid of my relationships, and said, hey, I'm going to do this full time. And that was 2013, 2013, 14. The first year I made 19 grand.
19 grand.
Yeah. $19,000. 19,000. And I
So
started,
you really meant it.
yeah, I think I started doing it full time, like, cause there was like a obviously a gray period where it was kind of both,
Yeah.
but the first full fiscal year, I think it was like February to February, I made 19 grand.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing, though. That's
and-
amazing that you stepped away from something so.
I think a lot of people talk about it like, oh, I would do that. And like, I literally,
Well, that's terrifying. People talk about it, but dude, that's gnarly.
and I'll say this, I was in a position to where I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. And I kind of got to this point where I was like, everything that I was doing at night and on the weekends, that's what I really all of a sudden was passionate about. And so for me, I had experienced that idea of like, hey, I got all this stuff and now I'm really not that happy. And all of this stuff that I'm doing over here is what really brings me joy. So what am I doing? And, you know, I've had a lot of mentors in my life, a lot of people that have been successful, not been successful, kind of different walks of life. And I think the one consensus from all of those people was, if you can figure out a way to do something you love and get paid for it, go do that, because it won't feel like you're working. And I know a lot of people say that. It's not the first time somebody's heard that, but I'm a living, walking example of that. Like, I had a lot of nice stuff and I had a lot of money and I had a lot of those things, which I'm not saying isn't awesome, isn't great, isn't worth chasing, because it is, but the money and the stuff needs to be the byproduct, because if it's the focus, at some point you're going to get it and not be happy, or you're going to chase it forever and never get it and realize that you wasted your life doing something that you really didn't care about.
Totally.
So let's let you, for 10 years you worked for a cancer nonprofit. Let's get a snapshot of what that looks like. First of all, how did social media change the landscape of what you guys did?
I think obviously, I mean, where we're at now, social influence is the new currency.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep,
people
I
are
agree.
making a lot of money doing that, right? I mean, we've seen all kinds of stuff. Like what's current right now with Kylie Jenner or whatever, trying to be a billionaire based off. I mean, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, dude, what's happening
and that's
now
the very,
is
very top of it. But there's a lot of people from the top down.
it's
that
all
are-
across the board, dude. People are resonating with influencers more than they are the brand, right? You have to have a face of the brand to even have a brand now.
Well, yeah, because I mean, how much has shifted, even in the skate world, right?
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
If it's like, who's oh gosh, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but it's like you look at somebody like what Reef signed Luke Davis, right?
Yeah.
A ways back, and like obviously he surfs incredible, but a big reason why he signed with Reef, or he's with Ruka now, I'm sorry, like, is because of his influence.
Yeah.
And like, he was like the first one where I looked at, I was like, oh, like, he surfs amazing, but he's not on tour.
Yeah.
But you look at, he's in the LA scene. He
Yeah.
has all these things, right? And the brands are going,
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and influence has become currency for sure.
and so we were really able to kind of take that before it was really big business. I looked at it kind of from an entrepreneurial standpoint and went, look, all my friends that have influence, they're doing all these things for their brands to help themselves, but all those people, they want to help and they want to give back and they want to feel good about themselves. What if we could create something or create an avenue for people to go, hey, this is all the stuff that I do, but this is how I give back. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of were able to create a platform for people to do that. So people supported our charity sometimes by just posting about it. But we were, perfect, some good timing. We were kind of that right age where it was like we understood how powerful it was. And so we really kind of built our nonprofit on that. I mean, we built it, I think we started with $7,500 and we donated millions of dollars.
And just so when you first started, social currency was not there, right?
No, I mean, it was just kind of getting started. There was a handful of people maybe getting paid a little bit, but it wasn't
Not like now.
No, it's nothing. It was like, it was still very raw and people weren't.
When I think you were doing Young and Brave, it was like right around the same time as St. Archer.
Yeah.
As far as like us doing ambassadors, it was like all happening kind of together.
Yeah, it was kind of that ambassador idea that like,
I don't even think anybody even realized it. We were just like, hey, dude, these guys have followings and like they could post about it and all those people get to see our product.
No, I can't remember how many working at OGO. I can't remember how many meetings I was in where we were trying to put a value on athletes, and they were like, "Well, he's this and that," and social media kind of just puts it there, and you can see it.
To me, that was the best thing about social, man. When you could actually see who people can reach and what their like true value is, especially like in the skate scene. It was like we just heard about what pros made what.
Yeah.
But like once like the following came out, it was like, wait, this guy makes this and he has that many. What's going on?
There's a direct,
You know?
And I mean, look at how that's evolved to where we're at right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's big, you know, it's $1 billion business.
It also helped you connect with, because you're helping basically people who are battling cancer. It helped you connect those influencers with the families that are battling cancer.
I mean, it was incredibly powerful because all of a sudden we could take somebody that maybe didn't have a following, didn't have a network, right? And we could plug him into what we were doing and go, hey, this is our new little boy. He's from El Paso, you know, he needs our help. And all of a sudden we put that out to our social. I shoot it to some of our ambassadors, some of the things that went on there. And all of a sudden his story's in front of 1 million people like that. And that was where I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
To me, that's really the magic of what you guys, it's just seeing you connect these people who need help, who are going through the most tragic, painful moments of their lives with people who have all this influence and want to help, and you just connected them.
Yeah, because
is that right? Is that accurate?
Because the thing that I've learned, there's two things, right? And some people might take this the wrong way, but whatever. People give for two reasons. People give because somebody in their sphere of influence needs help, right? From like a charitable standpoint, you know, such and such little brother got cancer, we're going to help. And you rally that whole community, you do that, right? And you're giving because it's happening to your network, to your, you know, there's 1 degree, 2 degrees of separation. You're like, hey, I'm involved in the current landscape and where we live from a technology standpoint. You're connected to all those people because you follow them on Facebook or your friends on Instagram or whatever. So it's, you can do that and it's in front of you, even though you may not have a great relationship with them, you know what's going on in their life. And so it was really about taking advantage of that. And then on the other side of the equation is people want to give because they want to feel good about themselves. People want to put their head on the pillow at night and go, hey, like I did something to help somebody, whether that was sharing an Instagram post or making a financial contribution or going to an event. People want to have that opportunity to do those things. And so my whole thing was like, if we could put those two things together and do it for our demographic and our age group and go, hey, this is a way to do it. I mean, it was a little bit in front of its time, to be honest with you, because now we look at like the influence and how people were paid and everything else like that. I mean, most athletes, you know, I have a friend actually writing a book right now. And honestly, the only reason he got the book deal is because he's got 700,000 followers. It's not because he's a better writer than somebody. It's
book
the fact
deals
that,
are big now.
Oh,
that's
dude,
like the new trend.
I want to write a book so bad, but that's a whole nother podcast. So we really kind of started in that space and then, ran it for 10 years.
So let's talk about some of the stuff you learned. So one thing I want to touch on is when you first started it, you were like, oh yeah, I'll just go fill out some paperwork and run it on my spare time. So what really goes into running a nonprofit?
Hey, and before you even answer that, it's funny how you do things being just so naive to what it really details. Like, dude, Paul and I were talking about the other day, like Paul, Josh, and I were so naive to like go in and do a brewery. But like, thank God we were.
Yeah, because
I don't know if we would have
done it otherwise, right? It's like that's ignorance is bliss,
totally,
right?
Straight up.
And so that 100%, like there's so many parallels between St. Archer and what we did. The timing of it, the way that we kind of, the age group that we were in and everything else like that. And so for me.
So you go into it blindly.
What do you, so arrogant.
What do you experience though as you do going through
paperwork and contracts, like whatever. First of all, I had to deal with the IRS. And understanding that, what everything that goes into that, and you know, how do you file for a nonprofit? What does that look like?
Is that a hard process?
Yeah. I mean, if you're an attorney, like obviously there's nonprofit attorneys that are doing that with their eyes closed, but I had no experience in it at all. I think I had donated to American Red Cross, and that was probably about the extent of my charitable kind of education.
So is it not just like a fill out and send off?
No. There's definitely some very specific things that you have to know what you're doing, and I've done it. Gosh, I've started 5, helped assist and start 5 other nonprofits right now, and then I've got like 3 or 4 coming up, and we'll get to that obviously. But for me, I think the one experience that I had in running a nonprofit, it was a lot of people tripped out when they met me or they talked to me face to face. They're like, ooh, because the majority of presidents, executive directors, creators of nonprofits, a lot of people are doing that as a second career. They're doing it after retirement.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have some of those conversations and interactions with people going, yeah, I'm 27, I'm 28 doing this. It was a like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Like, what are you up to type of thing. And so in growing the foundation,
Like, what are you up to, like on a negative standpoint?
no, like, what are you up to? Like, this is interesting that you're in your 20s, early 30s running a global nonprofit.
Because
there's
most
not a lot
people
of
are
kids.
doing it after retirement is what you're saying,
Yeah,
right?
there's just not a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
And so that kind of opened a lot of doors for us. But the whole learning process, it's definitely, it's like starting a business. I'm sure a lot of the things that you fell into in regards to starting St. Archer, like you had no idea you were going to have to do that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of that comes in with the nonprofit space as well. And, what's a public charity? What's a private charity? Who needs donations? Who doesn't need donations? Who needs receipts? What do you need to send receipts for? What can you write off? What can't you write off? And all of these things that kind of come along with it. There's all of that. And then it's building the team around you that allows you to succeed. And that's what I have in spades now is, I've got the attorneys, I've got the CPAs, I've got the bookkeepers, I have the network of people now that are going, hey, like anything that you do, let me know because I want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. So whether that's helping a cancer family out, or that's doing a beach cleanup, or that's creating, an event for, to bring awareness to mental health, I've kind of built that network around me now. And so that kind of leads into everything else that I've got going on now.
And really, you are an entrepreneur. You
100%.
You co-founded it. You're an entrepreneur. And I think that people are hesitant to say that sometimes because it sounds like selfish. It sounds like I'm an entrepreneur doing this foundation, but really that's what you're doing is you're running a business and
you're like an entrepreneur / philanthropist, right?
Yeah. I hate like
serial philanthropist.
Serial philanthropist. I mean, that's the one thing that I tell everybody. I almost hate the word nonprofit because at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah.
I've got attorneys, I've got CPAs, I've got sometimes employees, I've got insurance, all these things. What I'm doing with my capital at the end of the year is different. What I'm doing with the money that we create is different, but
it operates the same.
But it operates the exact same way. And so that's where I kind of tell people, I'm like, one of the first questions is like, well, how do you get paid? And I'm like, well, I take a salary, just like anything else. Like, just because my whole thing is I look at it from the opposite side. I go, this is all the stuff that I'm trying to do to give back to the community, to an individual person, to humanity in general. Like just like it takes money to make money, it takes money to give money away.
Totally.
And that's my whole stance is, if you look at it now, we were talking about this before we started, any business, I don't care if you have a beer company, if you have a skate company, if you have a shoe company, hair product, whatever it may be, if you don't have some sort of philanthropic give back in your business model, you are missing the boat.
Tell us about some of the bigger corporations of that have budgets to do this and what they're like.
You look at a lot of like Fortune 500 companies, let's just use that as a broad stroke. Mm-hmm. Every single one of those companies has budget in the nonprofit space. And that's where a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now is really kind of helping guide some of those companies and really kind of creating input and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Really kind of helping guide some of these companies because they don't understand how to engage what they're doing. So
there was, forgive me if you don't, but didn't you have a stat on was it Wells Fargo spent more money on their...
Yeah, like the amount of money that they've spent in advertising for the last 2 fiscal years, like especially in Southern California, any billboard that Wells Fargo has, it's all about their give back. It's
right?
We're recommitted to our community and we're donating money or what are these figures and things that they have. So that to me is, Wells Fargo is one of the biggest banking institutions in the world, and all they've focused on in the last year and a half is giving back.
It's like you look at God's plan, you look at Drake, that's what he's doing. Even Tekashi 6ix9ine, it's like that. This is what everybody's doing.
That's a whole nother conversation.
6ix9ine giving stuff away.
He walks around the streets throwing out hundreds, man.
Yeah, I don't like that. Straight up, I get it, but
to me, it's so self-serving.
Come on, God. Let's ignore God's plan though. Drake.
Drake can't do no wrong. But what I'm saying? This is the thing. This is the thing that I have a hard time with. I absolutely believe in giving back, 100%.
Yeah.
But when you use giving back as part of your content to kind of promote yourself, and that's where it starts getting blurred, right?
But that's what the Fortune 500 companies are doing.
Well, I know,
right?
but part of it is kind of blurry to me. Like I get agree, Bank of America, doing all this cool shit and giving back. I totally get that. But going on this marketing rampage to show everybody they're giving back, I don't know, when is it too much?
The heart has to be there, though.
Well, I'll tell you.
You can tell when it's not.
Yeah,
I don't know,
exactly.
and like I don't know Bank of America.
That's not true.
Here's the other
You
thing.
can't always tell.
We're gonna talk about it right now. I don't care what you're doing. At the rate that we consume information right now as a society is at the highest it's ever been, right? It's our phones, it's our computers, it's shit in our ear. Somebody's calling us, texting us, emailing us. We're looking at something on YouTube where we have the TV on and we're reading a book. It's all of this stuff all the time, right? The one thing that I think lacks in a lot of this stuff is it's been about how fast can you put something out, right? Mm-hmm. You look at like journalism. It's turned into, it's not about being right anymore. It's about being first. How do I break the story first?
Yeah.
Right. And so all that stuff is great, but the biggest problem is authenticity.
I think that's
And
what
if
you were just
you're-
saying, right, Mike?
If you're
100%,
not
yeah.
authentic, it's gonna. We were talking about that with the podcast, right? If it's not authentic and it's not this like, organic conversation or engagement, it's on to the next thing because there's gonna be something else pulling you away from it. And I think that's the one thing that I'm really good at is helping people create authentic processes within their business when it comes to nonprofit
nice.
and give back.
So for me, I always felt like, I don't know, there's so many like big nonprofits. Usually it's like wealthier dudes doing them. It felt like hard to tell what ones were taking advantage of the system and what ones were, I guess, authentic.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've always done a good job keeping it authentic. Maybe it's because you're young and you actually see what's happening in the foundation. Maybe how have you done that? How are you not the...
I think the thing is, when you start talking about nonprofits, I mean, there's a lot of advantages to having a nonprofit. Obviously, a big part of that is helping people or, being able to, create something that can benefit your community, society, whatever it may be. But there's also a lot of tax advantages. There's a lot of people, a lot of athletes that have their own nonprofits. And there's a lot of different things that you can do in that space. But for me, in everything that I create, whether it's an event, whether it's a separate nonprofit, whatever it may be, I want what we do to be tangible. I think there's a lot of nonprofits out there that create awareness, especially in the cancer space. It's 2018. Like, we all know what cancer is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of these bigger nonprofits and you just kind of go like, wow, like the amount of income that you have and donations and things, what you could be doing with that money is incredible to, build community. And I think for me with the nonprofits, I wanted to create something that is actually going to create something tangible. Like, I get it, let's go on a 5K and a walk, but like, what is that money actually going to do?
Yeah.
Where's it go? I get there has to be infrastructure and you have to pay employees and all that stuff, but like, what are you actually doing? Are you giving to research? Okay, cool. Then like, let's justify what research really is. Or are you just giving to big pharmaceutical brands?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole nother podcast. But for me, in everything that I create, I want it to be able to be tangible and I want it to be authentic so that when people see it and go, oh, what is this? They're seeing what we're doing and they're seeing the impact that we're making and it becomes tangible. And then hopefully it becomes engaging enough for them to go, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And whether that's sharing a post or coming to an event or, recommending somebody that we can help or whatever it may be for that particular nonprofit, I just want it to be organic and authentic and really something that's going to ultimately help people.
So to make sure I understand what you're saying that something tangible would be like going to a specific event for a person. Am I understanding this correctly? And raising a certain amount of money that goes towards that family.
Yeah. So there's
Is that right,
or
or
you
is
look
it-
at like what we're probably going to talk about here in a second is my new foundation, the BeYoutiful Foundation.
Okay.
And one of our kind of big things that we're standing on is it's, the awareness has been created. It's time to take action. And so our new foundation does a lot of things, but kind of the primary program is really being able to connect survivors and cancer patients, primarily women, with hairstylists and salons and estheticians and people kind of in that beauty industry and kind of helping them bridge the gap so that when you're in remission and your hair is starting to grow back and you have chemo curls and you don't know what to do, and you're in Atlanta, Georgia, you can literally go to the BeYoutiful Foundation, log in, share your story, create a profile, and then we will connect you with somebody in your local area that has a certain amount of knowledge about, dealing with cancer patients and really finding somebody that's going to care about you and help you getting back to feeling, the best version of yourself. So that's what I mean by tangible. I want
Gotcha.
us to do something.
And then also, I want to make sure we don't skip over this. So 10 years with the Cancer Foundation. Over those 10 years, can we look at some metrics? Like how many people let's get specific, because you were, if I understand correctly, the person that people would call when they got diagnosed with cancer and they were looking for help. Is that right?
Yeah, man, there's definitely,
you were boots on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, I was,
I'm sure for a lot of these families, you were like their support system.
I mean, right? I think over 8, 9, 10 years, I think I spoke at probably 20 funerals or was a part of 20 funerals or
and
wakes.
That's not easy work.
No. I mean, I had conversations where like I have one particular, I was the first phone call from a mom that lost her 15-year-old daughter.
Yikes.
Diagnosed, from diagnosis to death, like less than a year.
Yep.
And I was the first phone call for whatever reason. Like, I'm not patting myself on the back or doing anything, but
no, we need to talk about this part of it.
Yeah, like,
it's important.
I was she called me first and was calling to ask about some of the funds that we had raised for her daughter, and basically asking if they could take those funds and use it to pay for her funeral. That's
heavy
for me. Like, my perspective on things is.
So if we were to go back to you in the hot tub, and we were to look over the past 10 years, I'm not trying to put a number to quantify it and make a profit. I'm talking you paid your dues and you were in the trenches with a nonprofit charity for 10 years.
Yeah, like really doing the work and really, kind of being the janitor and the president and, sweeping the floors in I ran the charity out of my house for the first 7 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
This part of it's important. We're going to talk about, you have to know what you're doing to run a nonprofit, which is one thing I've learned from you, or seen in action with you.
Yeah.
But in doing this, you have to know what you're doing. You have to know the entrepreneur side and the ins and outs. But I don't want to skip over that part. You were in the trenches. You helped how many families over that time? You worked with hundreds.
We're probably in the thousands, like, of people, maybe not directly raising funds for those people, but, creating opportunities or connecting the dots with different hospitals or things like that. We have one of the craziest stories was, we were doing some stuff with the San Diego Padres and this company called Group Maddox. And they're like a ticket-based company, and we were doing a fundraiser with them, and then we also had one of the kids that we were helping was gonna like throw out the first pitch or like lead the 7th inning stretch or something like that, and he was up in the Bay Area and was essentially misdiagnosed, and because of the event that we put on, he was kind of from Northern California but had some roots to San Diego. Got him connected. He ended up having emergency surgery because he was correctly diagnosed, because he went to our event and was able to see a doctor in San Diego.
Wow.
We saved his life.
Wow.
100%. And so that's obviously a very specific case, but there's a lot of things just like that.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So you've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of families, individuals battling cancer.
For sure.
How do you get through that? How do you deal with the heart? Dude, that's hard, man. That's and I'm sure you become emotionally attached to some of these families, right?
Yeah.
So do you how do you get through something like that?
I don't know. I and this is like maybe going too deep, but I think it's a testament to doing what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I really feel like what I'm doing, even now, because there's been some changes and some things that have gone on, but I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I've always been really good about being able to put things in boxes and go, okay, I can deal with this right now, and then I can move on and deal with something else. And yeah, but there's definitely some moments that I'd rather forget.
Yeah, of course.
Talking to a mom after she lost her 15-year-old, and just honestly, that conversation was maybe an hour, and I probably, talked maybe 3 or 4 minutes out of that hour, and a lot of it was just listening and being a sounding board for somebody and just being there. Yep. But you can't, going back to the sitting in the spa moment, aha moment, all of those experiences, you can't go to the store and pay for those. You can't buy those. And talk about authenticity, I've lived that.
Yeah.
And I know what it's like to talk at a funeral, and I know what it's like to get a call like that from a mom. I also know what it's like to get a text message from a mom going, hey, we're 5 years cancer free.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do now to give back?
Great.
Like, so those are things that you can't buy that I'm lucky enough to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So let's get into kind of the transition to what you're doing moving forward. Yeah. But I just wanted to make sure we establish that, since we're kind of talking about like the money side of it. I want to make sure we establish that you're actually doing this, which we've done.
Yeah.
And that it's for you. It's real. So
Hey, also real quick, are you taxed on your income?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's just the company that's not taxed.
Yeah, it's just, but like I was an employee, essentially I was an employee of the company. And so I get a W-2 and I get taxed on that and all that. So yeah, getting taxed on 19
Works
grand.
the same way.
Yeah, getting taxed on
'Cause I was
19
like, man,
grand.
19K, like untaxed?
Yeah, no, it's taxed. Trust me. And so all that stuff's the same. But like, those are the things that I didn't know getting into it. Like, am I taxed on that? Am I not taxed on that? How do I? So all of those things are kind of in my tool belt now that I can really kind of take me into what I'm doing now. And, you know, I think
I was just saying, let's talk about what you're doing now.
yeah. So
When we talk about your partners.
yeah, we'll get
let me frame it up here. Let me frame
Frame it up.
yeah.
So basically,
up, dog.
let's frame this up. So you put in your 10,000 hours. You were in the hot tub. You basically said, "This, I'm making all this money." You took the bump down to $19,000 a year.
yeah, into a room like even the apartment I live in right now.
No, it's gotta be smart. The Bork's kind of balling, man.
No, like no. I love this place. My place
no
is probably
offense
this
taken.
big.
Okay.
Like maybe like if you take that room
To go from your backyard hot tub, you went to that. Now you're 10,000 hours. I'm gonna just say you've
Oh, for sure.
figured out your craft, and you've done both sides: the authentic, in the trenches, helping people, nonprofit, along with learning how to run a business, because you did. So from what I'm understanding, you basically got to the point where you're like, I can help more people. So now you're looking at starting. Let's talk about your first venture in a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about all your ventures moving forward. But you've essentially become this person that's an expert at your craft of starting nonprofits.
Yeah.
And I guess, am I understanding that correctly? How did you move into what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I think probably like
Mikey's giving me a look, man. We
love
need
it.
to have a little
Mikey's still
banter
salty
here.
about the modeling thing.
No, I was about to say, what I was going to say is I'm glad you framed that up.
Okay,
You
good.
did that well.
I thought I was about to get
snap back. I wasn't going to carry him or nothing.
I want to say maybe like I'm a big like journaler. I write everything down. Nonsense. I have like pads next to my bed. That's how my process or whatever. I get things out. And I probably say like maybe 4 or 5 years into the first nonprofit, I really started thinking about like, now that I'm really in this and this is kind of my career path and what I feel like I'm called to do, or whatever you want to say. What does that really want to be? Like I'm a very goal oriented person. Like I want to know like, okay, what am I doing? And I think kind of that broad like mission statement for my life, I guess, was I want to be able to positively affect millions of people. As simple and broad as that is.
And the cool thing is you're doing it, man. How many people get through a career when they're 65? Sorry, I'm going to cut you off. I want to add it in. Like, how cool is it? Most people can get to an entire career, 65 years old, retire, and have never done that. How old are you right now?
37.
And you've already spent 10 years. That's a huge accomplishment. So keep going.
Yeah. So I think for me, it was really like, how can I positively affect people, and maybe people that like I would never even directly know. And I think that was one of the coolest parts of running the first foundation. And when I was starting to kind of conceptualize what I wanted to do, we had an event in New York, and it was like, I think the day before the event. And I love New York, but it's a whole nother conversation. I was down in the financial district and I was just walking around. I was going to get some food, and this little girl goes running by me. Little girl, she's probably like 15 or 16, and she had one of our hats on and ran right by me, had zero idea who I was, but was like repping our brand and everything that kind of comes along with that. Now, however she got it, whether she knows what the foundation is or just what the brand was or whatever, I was like, that's crazy that we have something that like, she has no idea who I am. I have no idea who she is, but like she's representing what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, having that experience and then really kind of getting into that space going, wow, okay, like I've done this. And I think like, regardless what you do, like you want to be able to create a niche for yourself, right? You want to have those 10,000 hours in something specific. Mm-hmm. And I've ended up with 10,000 hours in like learning how to help people.
Great.
And so for me, it was, how can I start to take what I know and give it to my friends and help my friends do things, right? Because for me, I think one of the other amazing experiences is like all the collaborations that we got to do, from people to brands to events, all these things that we got to do, right? And just getting so much feedback from people going, hey, like, I felt like I helped, but I feel like I got so much more out of that. And to me, to have people say that about something that I helped create, I was like, how can I do more of that? There's a lifespan to everything that you do.
Yeah.
Some things you do forever, some things you do for a season, something, there's all these different kind of time spans on things. And so my biggest thing was, shout out to my partners, Nikki and Rihanna. We just started the BeYoutiful Foundation.
Let's get into that. Yeah,
we started. So Rihanna and I have been friends, not the singer, but like maybe cooler than the singer. No, she is cooler than the singer.
Why don't you fill everybody in on who Rihanna and Nikki are?
So Rihanna and Nikki are two women that honestly I've looked up to from like an entrepreneurial standpoint. They own 901 Salon in Los Angeles. They are kind of top of the food chain in regards to hairstylists and entrepreneurs. They own, like I said, they own 901 and a bunch of affiliated brands. And Rihanna and I went to rival high schools.
So basically, top of the food chain, meaning that every celebrity gets their haircut.
Yeah, they're doing it. Like, you should follow. Yeah, shout out to both of them. Follow them on Instagram.
Plug their Insta handles real quick.
Yeah, so it's Rihanna. It's just, I think she's like Madonna now. It's just Rihanna.
It's just
Rihanna.
Yeah.
And then Nikki's is, I think,
Nikki
Lee at
901.
901. Yeah. And then their brand is 901, and it's just all spelled out, and that's their salon. And then you can kind of find your way to the rest of their kind of affiliated brands. And so Rihanna and I have been friends forever. Her and Nikki have been best of friends and business partners for a long time as well. And they started 901, I think, like 2008 or something like that. And I mean, they can tell the story because they're going to be on here, I'm sure, at some point. So they started a salon, basically just them two, no investors, or their investor pulled out last second. And they rolled the dice and started this salon, and have had a location on, like in West Hollywood. Were there for a couple years, and now their salon's on Melrose Place in Los Angeles, like beautiful space. And Rihanna and I have been friends, like I said, since high school, a long time. And we kind of mutually supported one another. But we had always had kind of conversations, whether it was on vacation or at dinners or whatever, about, once I was running the foundation full time, like, how could we maybe create something together that would really be able to take advantage of the space that they were in and
so
the influence that they have.
Just to kind of frame it up, they have kind of an empire. They don't just have like a salon.
They're balling.
They cut hair. Don't they have online learning products also?
They've got they have this thing called Beauty Coach Television, which is like a subscription based YouTube channel that they murdered.
Rushing. They're
doing it big.
They're just
to put
like
in
I told you, like, I mean, they're my friends and I'm so lucky to just kind of do life with them. But like I look up to them like 100%. Like what they've been able to create and do is
it's
special.
Impressive.
And they've got an amazing team and just they've created a beautiful brand and product. And so we had kind of been talking about, probably on and off again for 3 years, about, what could we maybe do together? And in kind of like midway through 2017, I had kind of like put it out there like, hey, if there was ever a time, like, I think, I'm kind of feeling some transition coming on. I kind of like feel like, what's next? And so kind of went back and forth. We had been on vacation together and nothing really had come up. And I'm not a big sleeper. I kind of sleep in like 4-hour increments. I'm a weirdo. I've been like that since high school. And like November of 2017, I woke up in the middle of the night at like 3:30 in the morning. Woke up like kind of mad at myself. I'm like, oh, this thing has been in front of me the whole time. Woke up, wrote down the entire business plan, the entire business model for the BeYoutiful Foundation, sent it to them at like 4:30 in the morning. And by 6 a.m., 6:30, they had both responded like, absolutely, yes. How do we get started? Let's do it now. Yeah. And so that was the beginning of the BeYoutiful Foundation. It took us about a month or so to get filed and to do all those things. And
what's the mission of the BeYoutiful Foundation?
Mission of the BeYoutiful Foundation is really to create resources for women dealing with cancer, coming out of cancer, and really trying to help those women get back to feeling the best version of themselves. And that's obviously a very broad stroke, but the biggest idea is to be able to take stylists and take salons and take estheticians and massage therapists and makeup people all across the world and be able to give them an arena to go to the BeYoutiful Foundation, sign up, and actually donate their services. So you can donate haircuts, you can donate makeup services, whatever it may be. You go there, you donate. And then on the other side of the equation, as a resource for cancer patients, women dealing with cancer in the middle of their fight or coming out of it in remission, they can actually go to the BeYoutiful Foundation. They can share their story. They can log in, create a profile, and then they'll be connected to somebody in their community that's willing to donate services. So if I'm Jessica and I'm in Atlanta and I'm, 6 months, in remission, my hair is starting to grow back, and I don't know who to turn to, I need to kind of get a tame on the chemo curls and everything else going on, you'd be able to go to the BeYoutiful Foundation and we would connect you with somebody in your local area that's willing to donate services to kind of help you get back on your feet. Great. And so there's a lot of other things that we're doing with the foundation, but that's what we've kind of unrolled first. And
is it all service, or are you guys raising money as well?
Yeah, we're definitely raising money as well, but in my experience in doing so many other nonprofits and being on different hospital boards and everything else like that, the donation thing, it figures itself out. Mm-hmm. If you can create the community and then even take it a step further, create the resources, everything else will fall into place.
So that's what I want to make sure we paint that picture for the audience here. You're essentially now in the position where two people like Nicki and Rihanna they've done really well, and they want to do something with their success. And you're now in the position where you've put in those 10,000 hours. You understand it's authentic. It really is what you want to do. You also understand the business side of it so that you can succeed. And you go to a couple of people like them and say, hey, let's do this. And this is, I feel like, one of the many ventures you will undertake in helping people. So if anybody listening has resources and wants to do something, reach out to Matt.
Yeah. Like, what do you always say? Like, hit me in the DM, Mikey.
Slide in the DM.
Yeah, slide in the DM.
Yeah. Plug your Insta real quick.
My Instagram.
Do this at the end, but we'll do it right now.
Yeah, my Instagram's Matt523. Real simple.
There we go.
MATT523. It's, slide in.
So, so keep going. So basically, help connecting women battling cancer with hairstylists in different areas as they're getting back on their feet.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a multitude of other services and things that are going to be available as we grow and things change. We also have a thing called our Wonder Woman program, and that's where survivors can actually log on and share their story of beating cancer, or actually filling out a story for maybe somebody that didn't win their fight. And it's a kind of a beautiful program where people can log on and share those stories and heal a little bit themselves, but hopefully also inspire other people that are maybe in the middle of their own fight, that are trying to figure out, how do I get through this? How do I survive? And so that's got some great momentum already. And then the other program that we're going to roll out initially is our BeYoutiful Meals program. And over the last 10 years, I've spent my fair share of time in the hospitals, and whether you're there one day or 200 days or 365 days a year, hospital food sucks.
It's so crazy.
It sucks after the first day. Even there's some good cafeterias and stuff, but our BeYoutiful Meal program really is set up to bring a nice kind of meal from the heart into the hospitals for the families and the patients and people that aren't leaving. And then obviously the doctors and nurses and hotel staff, hospital staff that are there, and just bringing in a meal and serving those people. And it's not anything super crazy or obviously difficult to do, but those days are incredible. Like being able to come in and just love on people when they need it the most.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of other things that are going to be stemming from that, but it's all possible because of the influence that Nicki and Rihanna have built through their brand. And, we were talking about that earlier, influence is the new currency. And these girls, what they've done is authentic. Who they are as people is authentic, and obviously incredibly successful. And a lot of their kind of talks over the last couple of years was, we feel like we're missing something. And a big part of that conversation was like, how do we give back? And they do, they've got a lot of employees, they inspire a lot of people, but this is a very specific path and a very specific thing that we're doing. And just in some of our conversations that we've had since we launched, which we launched last week, both of those girls, I think, are starting to experience, girls, women, humans, they're experiencing what I've felt for the last 10 years. And I think they've felt it in like maybe going to an event or doing something. But I was talking to Rihanna like the day that we launched, and I could like hear her smile when we were talking on the phone. And it was like, that's what I want to help people experience.
Great.
Is like that idea of like doing something for somebody else.
Yeah.
So I want to get into Shop 143, but is there anything else, Mike, you wanted to touch on? I think we got a good snapshot there.
Yeah.
Of the BeYoutiful Foundation. And did you plug that? The BeYoutifulFoundation.com?
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful_foundation
for Instagram?
On Instagram. Yeah.
What's the site?
It's beautifulfoundation.com.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's all there. You can find it. And obviously you can find that through any one of our handles and whatnot. So,
and let's talk about Shop 143 now, yeah?
Yeah, so Shop 143 is kind of the second endeavor. I mean, there's BeYoutiful Foundation, which I'm doing. And then 143 Collective is my own personal nonprofit. And it's going to do a multitude of things, but kind of the first endeavor is Shop 143. And just to give a background on the name, 143, this is dating myself.
Is what I used to text my girlfriend in high school.
I love you.
Yeah, so the whole thing is this. So like in high school, I had a pager because I thought that was the thing to do. But nobody paged me, and it was only on like every other month. Yeah. But the only person that would page me was my mom, and she'd always page me 143, or like my sisters would page it to me. So I was like, that's all I ever got, right? So I'd always had that in my mind, and like as I got older, I like remember it and whatnot. I'm like, I want to do something with that. I always loved it, and so I created this thing called Shop 143, which we're just in the process of kind of underway. We haven't even launched it yet, but we're kind of in process. Is basically kind of going back to what we were talking about. Is I've got all these friends that want to give back, and they want to help, and they want to do good, and especially in the day and age that we have with social influence, the amount of gifting and direct marketing that's going on is incredible. And the thing that's I really look at as an entrepreneur is like, okay, like what hasn't been addressed, what's missing, where's the gap? And for me, the gap on all this kind of social marketing is on the backside. Is really where if I send you like our latest shoes, maybe you post them, maybe you don't, maybe you like them, maybe you don't, chances are they're going to sit in your room, they're going to collect dust, and they're just going to be there. And I've got a lot of friends that are going like, hey, I've got like a whole room or my garage or a storage unit full of stuff that has value that's literally just taking up space. And so being an entrepreneur, I kind of look at that and I go, wow, like for me, so much of what I've done in the last 10 years was creating events and opportunities for people to show up and do good. Well, whether you're dealing with a regular person, a celebrity, an athlete, an influencer, it's difficult to get people to show up just in general. I don't care what you're doing, how amazing the cause is. That's hard. And so my whole thing was like, how can I create something that people can get involved in with kind of limited amounts of effort, but really, be able to be impactful. And so Shop 143 is essentially a curated online thrift store with a philanthropic component to it. And that's kind of a mouthful, but the idea is for some of my friends that are athletes that are going, hey, I've got all this stuff, I need to get rid of it. You'll be able to donate that to Shop 143, which is a nonprofit. We'll be able to list it, put it up online. It's in an auction format, 10-day auction format. And anything that we sell, 50% of the profit goes to the charity of the influencer's choice. So for somebody like Mikey Taylor, he'd be able to donate all the stuff sitting in his garage that I'm sure Jen is very excited to get rid of. And we'd be able to put it online. You get a tax, exemption for that. And then we're able to sell those goods. You help me promote it. And then anything that we sell, 50% goes to the charity of your choice, which hopefully it's BeYoutiful Foundation. And you get to do some good. You get to create a positive PR opportunity for the influencer, for the athlete, whoever it may be. And away you go.
Last time you were over here, it was me, you, Mikey, and P-Rod, and you were telling P-Rod, he's like, yeah, I've got a whole closet, like come over to my house.
Paul's got,
and I've been so lucky to kind of connect with so many people that are talented in their own individual fields, and this goes back to what we were talking about, is I want to be able to help create ways for people to help other people. Great. And this is just like, if you look at print advertising is dead. Like all the magazines, unless it's like Vogue, like Vogue is still around and there's money being spent in that type of advertising and online advertising. But so much of that budget is now being spent on direct market placing. So, hey, I know Mikey Taylor's got a handful of people that follow him that are looking at shoes, that want to buy shoes. I'm going to send him his newest pair. Hopefully he posts about it and maybe we sell some shoes. Well,
Gary Vee actually did that. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And so like what happened, what happens on the back end of that? A lot of that product just sits there and collects dust or ends up in a garage or a storage unit. So I'm just kind of going like the thrift store model isn't new. Like there's a million of them everywhere.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is going, hey, I was never interested in taking everybody's stuff, but if I could take my friend's stuff that do have social influence, that can then go, hey, I'm going to give that to you, and then we can select a charity or and be able to help some people with that stuff that's just sitting there. That's really kind of the consensus of what Shop 143 is going to do. And we've already got I think 63 or 64 people committed to donating their stuff. And, those 62 or 63 people have like a social influence of over 100 million. And so it's really about changing the idea of waste and things that are just kind of sitting around. So we're in the middle of that startup. I've got that going on.
I mean, it's interesting too. Like I think it's really interesting to go to a website when it does launch and look and see, that's like, is it going to say this is from P-Rod?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the thing is like,
that's really cool.
You guys look at your fans and you look at the people that support what you have done through the course of your career. Like people want to be able to interact and go, shit, dude, I got a pair of freaking Sean Malto shoes or whatever it is. And it's like, those shoes were just going to sit there.
Yep.
And I think people are like more stoked when like it actually came from me.
Yeah. And it's like one of those things where it's like I know I fan out on all kinds of stuff and I just kind of go, for me, that, like I said, the thrift store model exists. It's not anything new or ingenious. I'm just kind of going like, I want to take all my friends and go and do it and then be able to add a philanthropic give back to it, because a lot of thrift stores and stuff that you give to, and I'm not going to call them out here, but do your research. Like you give to them, there's very, very little doing anything charitable. Yeah. And so my whole thing is like about being committed and being better and going, hey, I'm giving 50% of the profit away to a multitude of different kind of charitable partners that are actually doing good work, and you're going to see those dollars go to work. Yeah. So I've got that. And then I've got, a little project going on called Girl Gang the Label, which is with my friend Amy and Corey. And it's just about a women's education and empowerment. I grew up with two sisters and obviously incredibly passionate about helping people and whatnot. And so
you are someone who just does a lot at one time.
Oh, I got too much going on, but I can't, if the other side of the equation doesn't work well, with just one thing. So, shout out to Corey and Amy. They're amazing. You should probably have them on too. They've got like 4 or 5 different brands that they've started and done, and they're amazing.
Is there anything to plug? Like, is there an Insta handle? Or
so it's Girl Gang the Label, and it's at Girl Gang the Label, and
Gang the Label.
Yeah, okay. And they have like their shirts that they're running right now. Just say,
God, you're doing so many things. You have so many plugs.
I know.
Somebody's seriously gonna have to write everything down.
I know. They're doing like the shirts that they have out right now. Just says support your local girl gang, and I'm actually their director of philanthropy, so I'm helping kind of create components for them to give back. And we're gonna, I think, create a program for like girls that want to code, and really kind of creating a platform for those girls to find that education and get involved in coding. And because I mean, how important is that? I wish I could code. Like that would be the best thing ever. So.
You want to give handles and shout out to 143?
Yeah, so Shop 143 is shop, SHOP.143. That's the handle. The Instagram is shop143.org. And
switched around.
Yeah.
The Instagram is...
Instagram is... Yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay. So thanks.
So reverse those and they'll be in the comments.
Yeah.
So, sorry, keep going. Is there more?
Yeah, so I've got that going on, and then I'm in the very, very infant stages of doing some stuff with my buddy Nolan, and then one of his, he's a music artist, and he's got a couple different people that he manages, and one of the people he manages is Super Duper Kyle, which if you haven't listened to his stuff is pretty good. And we're talking about maybe trying to do something in the mental health space there. And so actually I think I have a meeting about that tomorrow. So pretty fired up about that. And yeah, too many things going on.
Okay, cool.
And then everything I got going with Mikey. Which
yeah,
is a whole other thing.
Yeah,
we didn't even get in that.
Yeah, no, his space. So as far as like commune capital, I always hear Mikey will tell me you guys are collaborating, talking about. I won't go into it, but just for time's sake. But
we're doing stuff
Matt
together.
Is a man of many trades.
Hey, seriously, yeah, he's my ghostwriter now for real.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I have like send him stuff, and I'm like, just the other day I sent him like our mission statement, and I was like, hey man, can you like take this from like skate talk to like not to like president, like somewhere blended in the middle?
Yeah.
And seriously, he spit it back to me seriously in like an hour. It was like perfect.
Love it.
Yeah, he's good at it.
Yeah. So
I want to
a lot of
say
stuff
this,
going on.
man. I want to say this. This is an important interview because this gives us a realistic idea of what it takes to do a nonprofit. And Matt's your guy. If anybody's looking at doing one, DM him, Matt523, right?
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, man. So go give him a follow, check out his stuff. And when do we know the ET on Shop 143?
Yeah, I think that we're shooting for a September 1 start date.
Okay.
So we're off a little ways, but there's some moving parts on it for sure. But I'm really excited about that. We've got about 10 people lined up to kind of launch with that I'm excited about. And I think we've got like 16 or 17 affiliated nonprofits that we're already working with. So
love
it's
it.
pretty cool.
Yeah, that is a great idea, and you're doing it. So, Matt, anything else you want to throw? I think we covered it all.
I think we're good.
Yeah,
you nailed it, dog.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I just sat back and listened.
No,
All right, cool.
Thanks
awesome,
for having me, guys.
Matt. Thank you for being on, and that's a wrap.